Alright, so let's now have our CAT University hymn.
All hail Maroon and gold, thy colors unfold, for royal technologians, whose hearts are strong and bold. All hail Maroon and gold, on breezes we stand, thy stars we love. All hail, all hail, all hail. All hail Maroon and gold, to thee we shall flee, through all the years and ages, thy praises we will sing. All hail Maroon and gold, thy strength here shall fail, for thee we'll die. All hail, for thee we'll die. All hail.
Alright, so I guess we are all ready for this session. So I would request and remind everyone to please stop first their videos and change your screen name to your first name, comma, your program and year level. Right, so get things started. I think we are all ready. To introduce our speaker this morning, we have from the Supreme Student Government, Mr. John Dale Catalonia.
All
There
right.
you go.
Thank you, Ma'am Merlin. So I would like to greet everyone a good morning and welcome to the first ever Teknoy live session. Without further ado, let me introduce to you our speaker for this session. Our speaker for today is a certified IPC specialist and a licensed engineer. He graduated last October 2018 with a Bachelor of Science in Electronics Engineering at Cebu Institute of Technology University. With his undergraduate thesis entitled Retinix-Based Local Contrast Variation Assessment for Ocular Fundus Images. During his student years, he was the president of the Peer Mentors Club in the school year 2014-2015. And he also won 9th place in the Automatic National Intercollegiate Mathematics Quiz in the year 2018. He was also a first runner-up in the ISAP Regional Quiz Show in the years 2014 and 2016. Furthermore, he also won as the champion in the 2014 SASAFE Science Quiz Bowl and first runner-up in the 2016 SASAFE Mathematics Quiz Bowl. In the same year, 2016, he also won and was hailed as the champion of the CIT University Search for the Mathematician of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker for today's session is none other than the 10th place of the ECE Board Licensure Exam last April 2019. Please help me welcome Engineer Charles Samuel T. Lasiste. A round of online applause, please.
Good morning to everyone. Very happy to see you. Yes, it's very nice here in San Francisco, as you can see in my background. Yes, I mean, no, I'm just kidding. That's just a virtual background, of course. Once again, I was invited to have this Teknoy live sessions with you to conduct these live sessions, and I'm very thankful to the administration through Miss Erlyn Rago for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here to share this with you. And there are some people raising their hands. Yes, Renji and Reggie. And by the way, it's very interesting for us to have our very own president, the Engineer Bernard Nicolas Villamor, here with us. Hello, sir. Good morning. Mas makanervyos, sir.
Morning, everyone. Morning.
This is the first ever Teknoy live sessions, organized by the school and co-organized by the Honor Society and the Supreme Student Government of CIT University. So the first ever live Teknoy sessions for today. All right, now this talk actually is all about learning preferences. No, I think some of you have taken that survey that was perhaps on, I don't know, I don't really know what it is, but perhaps that survey was on students' difficulties in studying, and even during this time of the pandemic, going through the Made for Learning framework, some of their difficulties there. And one of them has been learning preferences. And I've been tasked to give a talk or give a webinar on learning preferences. And these are basically the goals that we want to have for this session this morning. So the first is we want to learn new content easily on your own and structure learning with minimal assistance, because that's how it's been happening right now in the pandemic. Of course, we can't be at the campus, we can't have face-to-face interactions with our instructors, with our teachers. So there will be some challenges that we'll be facing in learning new content. That's the first thing that we want to happen, and hopefully this webinar, this session will be a help to that. And the second one is learning with or without interactions with peers and professor, and that still rises out of our condition in the pandemic when we're just in our homes, and sometimes we even have difficulties with our internet connection, knowing that our style of learning, our method for learning right now is partly online, partly on our own, partly offline. And the third one is developing good ways to solve problems you run into. We want to be able to develop these things, problem solving, and that's not just necessarily problem solving in the way that some of us engineering students can understand it. No, that's really problem solving in a general sense. When we encounter problems and trying to understand a certain concept, we want to be able to have to learn good ways in order to solve these problems. And basically, all these learning outcomes that we want to come from this session has arisen out of this new framework that we're having right now in CIT University, where in time of this pandemic, we want to be able to enhance our learning experience. We want to be able to really give as much effort as we can to learn, and it has something to do with our learning preferences. When you think of the word learning preferences, you may be thinking now of the word learning styles, perhaps. No, um, in what style or in what method am I going to learn all these new concepts that are coming into my horizon? Now, I will not be giving so much of an organized presentation for this morning, but I will be giving you a series of tips or a pieces of advice in how to be able to maximize your learning for this time during the pandemic. And I was told that it will be your finals week next week. So hopefully this will be something that will be helpful for you. And not just that it will be your finals next week, it's also that there is a special summer term, no? The next special summer term after this one we're having right now. So for those of you who are planning to um, go into that special summer term, I hope these tips will be really helpful for you. I'll not be giving you tips on how to solve your statics, your dynamics, or like that, but in general, really on learning preferences. No? Now, first of all, when we want to go through learning preferences, we want to establish a basic thing. One of the basic things that we want to see is that you have to understand your purpose for learning. You have to understand why you want to learn. No? What is your purpose for going to CIT University? What is your purpose for going through your degree program? Now, I want to posit to you that you have to learn to understand. You can't just be learning for high grades, or you want to compare learning just for high grades or learning to understand. For those of you, I trust some of you may be in the honor society, and that's good. I'm not saying that high grades are bad, okay? I'm saying that if you're learning just for high grades, that's not really learning. And if you're learning just to pass, just to get that mahiwagang tres, if you're learning just to have that 3.0 in your small rectangular grade sheet. That's not really learning. You want to be able to understand. You want to be able to really think through these concepts. And understanding there is not just being able to grasp the concepts, but understanding is also being able to use these concepts to apply them into your daily lives, or to be able to apply them into your daily routines, for example. Now, for example, what use is it if you're learning about if you're learning about circuits, for example, if we have some of our engineering friends here, what use is it if you're learning about circuits if you don't really if you don't can't really apply it? For example, there's a problem in your home, there's some faulty wiring, for example, in an extension wire or in something wiring of your appliances. What's the use of learning about circuits if you cannot apply what you have learned to, for example, fixing your faulty wiring? No, the goal really of understanding is to be able to apply it, and that's supposed to be the goal of our learning. Now, what is your motivation for learning? Is it what's your motivation for taking up your degree program? You have to establish your long term goal. You can't just have, of course, high grades are indeed goals. These are very good goals, high grades, because you'll get, you'll get your college scholar, you'll get your presidential scholar. No, but of course, these are all good, but you want to be able to establish your baseline goal. And you have to think of your learning journey like constructing a skyscraper, no? For some of our civil engineering friends, if you remember, or basically for all of us, the most important thing, if you have seen, it's very awkward to say this, but if you have seen the video that was posted in Teknoy, what I wanted to convey to all of you was that your learning journey should be, you're thinking like you're constructing a skyscraper. You have to solidify, you have to strengthen your foundation. No, because again, if you remember, look at all these tall buildings we have here in the city. Horizons 101 along Mango, that had a very strong foundation. That's a very tall building. No? Then notice also in along Jones near Metrobank. Sige, tawagan na. I forgot the name. Basta that tall building, Crown Regency. Yes, Crown Regency. Thinking of Crown Regency, of course, Crown Regency had a very solid, very deep foundation in order for that building to be built as high as it could have been. Your learning journey is not going to stop when you get your diploma, when you go out of the gates of CIT University, when you apply for a job. That your learning journey is not going to stop there. No, your learning journey is never going to stop. So you have to think of your learning journey like constructing a skyscraper. You have to solidify your foundations. Now, someone raised their hand. Was that Adrian J? Somebody raised their hand. Does he have something to say? Okay. Wala ra. All right. So that's really the first thing. We want to establish that baseline. We have to learn to understand. And then the second thing I would want you to know is, thinking now of learning preferences, you want to know your learning style. And some of you, if you have undergone psychology, perhaps you have undergone this, your VAC learning styles. The visual, that's what you see, and auditory or oral, what you hear, and kinesthetic, what you do. You want to understand yourself and how you really learn. You have to know what makes you tick as a learner, right? So perhaps some of you have taken that test in your introduction to psychology. If you haven't, perhaps you can search online. It's just on Google. You search for a VAC learning styles model test. You want to understand how you learn, and you want to capitalize on that. For example, if you're a visual learner, basically you would love to see diagrams, you would want to see charts, you would want to see maps, or perhaps you would even like to read. No, one of the primary instruments for your learning is your eye. That's for the visual. For the auditory, and I personally am an auditory learner, I learn a lot in using my ears and what I hear. So for example, sometimes I remember before going through my majors ECE, what I would be doing is that most of the time I would be closing my eyes during the lecture, because I want to be able to focus on what I'm hearing from the teacher. And every now and then open my eyes if ever we're looking at a circuit diagram, if we're looking at a long equation. No? What I wanted to do is to capitalize on how I wanted to learn. And then the third one is kinesthetic, and what you do with your hands. No? For example, it's not just enough for you to see, it's not just enough for you to hear, you have to do it yourself. For example, when you're encountering a problem in class, it's not just enough for the teacher to tell you how to do it. It's not just enough for the teacher to show you how to do it. You have to do it yourself. That's the way of that's one of the manifestations of kinesthetic learning. So you want to know which of these is your learning style, and you can read a lot more about that on the internet. So you want to learn how you really want to how you yourself are learning primarily, and then the one that you want to do is you want to capitalize on that. You want to of course we've heard, yeah, all this advice, and we want to be able to strengthen our weaknesses. No, of course that's very helpful. We want to um, strengthen our weaknesses. We want to be able to cover them up with more strengths, but do not neglect your strength. Use your strengths to your advantage. You want to learn whether you're visual, you're auditory, or you're kinesthetic. Now that's for learning style. Now go ahead, if you want, you can go ahead later on after this webinar. Go ahead and search on Google what your VAC learning style is: visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Now again, going back, don't forget your foundations. Why? Because this is the third tip. The natural tendency of students is to forget the previous semester subjects and lectures. Yung mga nadayon nga, maura man to, mana man to. Nakatrace na bitaw ko ato. Kalipta na to na ko eh. Okay na, that's fine. That's really the natural tendency of students not to forget your previous semester subjects. But again, remember the illustration of a skyscraper. You have to constantly go back also to your foundations. Remember your foundations, because your foundations are what's going to hold you up. There's what's going to make you be able to withstand the learning challenges later on. You have to be able to establish, for example, your mathematical foundations in senior high, in first year and second year. You want to be able to establish them, to strengthen them, so that you will have a solid foundation for, let's say, when you go into advanced engineering mathematics, when you go to your Laplace transform, when you go into Fourier transform, for all these things. You want to be able to establish that. You have to, and once you've gone through the higher mathematics, don't forget to re-establish and strengthen the previous lessons. No, because the tendency is you can so easily remember how to get the Laplace transform of a certain function, but you don't know how, you forget na how to solve a simple algebraic equation. That's sometimes the problem. And then we forget that the basics really of your Laplace transform, for example, or our differential equations or our integral calculus is really on algebra, trigonometry. No, it's really there. Don't forget your foundations. If you're go ahead and taking notes, feel free, go ahead. These are just a series of tips. No, it's not so structured as I want it to be. And personally, I'm not a structured person. But yeah, these are just some of the tips. These are just some of my learnings during my learning journey. Now, don't forget your foundations. That third tip. Fourth tip: never underestimate the value of reading. Now, this applies to you even if you're a visual learner, a kinesthetic learner, or an auditory learner. Never underestimate the value of reading. Reading really is something that is very neglected among college students, especially. This is just my personal observation. No, during my time. Wow, I feel so old. During my time, during my stay in CIT University, books have been generally books have been very largely neglected in Philippine universities, and particularly in CITU. If you've heard the phrase before, gisayang lang ninyo ang inyong library fee. And now that there are, no, of course, that's not true for all, no, but some of them, generally, I'm speaking in general terms, no, but no, look at our new library, huy, kanindot. Our new library it looks really nice. Yeah, I'm sure the school has done a lot. Invested a lot in the library in order to make it conducive for learning. No, there's a reason why libraries exist. And notice during the past, written material was very rare. And it was not until the invention of the printing press in the late 1400s, the invention of the printing press by Johann Gutenberg, when reading material became very valuable, because reading material could now spread throughout so many places. Now go through the books and don't skip the reading material, the exercises, the quizzes. When you pick up a book, Um, don't just look for the information that you want to look for. Go through the books. And it applies to written books, physical books, or even ebooks. Now this applies to them all. You go through the books. There's a reason why these books are written, because the author thought that the way the topics are arranged, the way he presented these topics, he thinks, yeah, and then it even went through a lot of editions. These people think that this is going to be helpful for a lot of people. Now, to give you an example, this is one of the thick books I've been studying. Can you? I wonder if you can see it. Wait lang, ha? Sorry. I wonder. I'll let you see this for a while. If you see this book, if you can read it, this is the basics of biblical Greek. Now I'm trying to study another language, no, but this is quite a thick book. It's quite a thick book, and it's really hard. It's very difficult. And I was thinking of looking at other resources that I could go to, but I always thought that reading books is really very helpful. And as I've studied through this book, it's been really very helpful. There's really a reason why the author went through those concepts, went through those in the order of the material that he went them to. There's a reason why, because he thinks, yeah, in his experience in the past, this is the best way that the material is presented. So never underestimate the value of reading. And if you might complain, lisod man magbasa, it's hard to read. I urge you to pick up another book. There is a book. I'll send it in the chat later on, or if you can ask a question. The name of the book is How to Read a Book. No, that's the name of the book, How to Read a Book. It's written by Mortimer J. Adler. I'll just chat it down later. It's a very helpful book. If you're reading the book in order to help you to learn to read. Never get underestimate the value of reading. Read that book. It's very helpful. I think it's available online for free. So that's never underestimate the value of reading. Now, then the next one, make use of all your available resources. Then that means just that, as we saw in the VAC learning styles, you capitalize on your strengths, no, but use good each resource that you have. For example, you have your books. Sometimes you may have your reviewers and you solve the problems on your own. You watch online tutorial and lecture videos, no. Another thing perhaps that you could think about is um, that you could consider is Khan Academy. Who of you, I think some of you are familiar with Khan Academy. Now, you may be familiar with it. And Khan Academy has, for me, especially in my introduction to calculus, it has been very, very helpful. Khan Academy, and then not just my Khan Academy, I supplemented my classroom lectures with Khan Academy, and even with solving problems on my own. No, so you want to be able to make use of all your available resources, because there are a lot of resources that present the materials in different ways. Perhaps you can understand the material of by this author, but perhaps you can't understand the material by another author. You know, there may be some books for some of us ECE. If there are some ECEs here, you may know the electronics books by Boylestad and Floyd. No, you may know these books, and some of us can understand Boylestad but not Floyd. Some of us can understand Floyd but not Boylestad. Now you use all the available resources you can, because there are also many others who explain the material very simply. For example, katong Khan Academy, it was really explained very simply, very intuitively ang calculus. So make use yun of all available resources that you have. You know. And then wait. And then this one, we're going through a learning process, and then sometimes you may encounter, as you learn, you may encounter challenges and difficulties. No, but of course, just remember lang yun nga, this is a journey. No, your learning is not a goal. The goal, it's the if you're, sige na nga phrase ay nga, it's not about the blah blah blah. Sige na, it's not about the mountain. Kanang song gani ni, I forgot her name, Miley Cyrus. It's the climb, char. No, but the learning is not the goal in and of itself. No, it's really the journey. You're learning all throughout your life. So be patient with yourself and discipline lang you put yourself, because the real learning and proper understanding will take time and effort. It's really impossible to learn a topic properly overnight. if you've seen Avengers, no, the first Avengers movie, last 2012, and then you saw Tony Stark. So Tony Stark, there was a shield agent who asked him, when did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics? And he just answered, last night. No, truly in reality, that's impossible. Very impossible for you to study thermonuclear astrophysics in just one night. No, that's impossible. So you have to be patient with yourself and to discipline yourself. If you don't understand a concept, just keep going back to it. No, learning in many ways is not linear. If you understand my drift, it's not this concept, complicated concepts, and then later on. Learning is basically cyclical. In my experience, it has been cyclical. I have a concept, I go back to it, go back to it, go back to it until I understand it. And then I move to another one. And then cyclical na po. Cycle, cycle, cycle. It's not all the time that at the first reading you understand a topic. So be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you can't understand a topic later on. Yeah, another thing with this is be patient with yourself. Don't be discouraged when you get low grades. Don't be discouraged when you get low scores. Because that just means you have not learned the topic yet well. Or nabenta block lang yun ka. It doesn't mean yabugo ka. Huh? I have just to put that bluntly. When you get a low score, that does not mean yabugo ka. Just that you did not put enough time, you did not put enough discipline, and you were not, perhaps it can discourage you banga. You will not be patient with yourself. So just be patient and discipline yourself for this time while you're learning. Because learning, again, is not a goal. Learning is a process. It's a journey. Now, this one. Use the 5 whys. Some of you, I don't know, some of you are familiar with this. Perhaps some of us who are already working, see Miss Rafi, see Miss Erlin, and see Sir Bird. Some of us may be familiar with the 5 whys. No, but the 5 whys really is just a simple method of understanding the root cause of a certain problem. No, but if you apply it to our learning, the wonder and power of why really is massively underestimated. You want to ask the questions why, because this will help in going back to your foundations. For example, when you're solving, kanina lang, I'll give you an example. So this is from our workplace, no, but don't worry, this is not intellectual property. This is just general knowledge. 5 whys. This is the simplest method of root cause analysis. And then just an example of how we're going to go through about our 5 whys. You have to ask why 5 times until meaningful conclusions are reached. And then the 5 is not a specific number. Now, when you get to the 5th why, amo na root cause. No, it's just the mean, no, the average. The 5 in the name derives from the anecdotal observation on the number of iterations or the number of whys that you need to resolve a certain problem. Now, for example, your problem is nakay flat tire. The nail punctured the tile. Oh, first why? Why was the tire punctured? The nails were on the garage floor. Now that's the answer of your why. And then next why, second why. Why were there nails? The box of nails on the shelf split open. Hey, really? Why was it split open? Uy, the box got wet. Why was it wet? The rain fell through a hole in the garage roof. Then notice, why was there a hole? The roof shingles are missing. Now, so this is now your root cause. This is now the reason why. Why was there a hole? Now, for example, if you apply it na karon sa ato ang in our learning preferences, learning style. For example, why can I not concentrate when I'm learning? You have to ask yourself that. That's your problem. I can't concentrate enough. Why can't I concentrate? And there could be various reasons for that. No, but you have to be able to point to the main reason or the primary reason why. So for example lang, I'm distracted. Let's say na lang again. The first problem is you have low scores. Now, why did I have low scores? I did not study enough. No, I was not able to study enough. Why was I not able to study enough? It's because I was not able to concentrate during my study. Why was I not able to concentrate? Is it because it could be I'm very easily distracted, or there were a lot of distractions around me? Why am I easily distracted? Is it because I don't want to study? It could be like that. You have to go through all these and then until you get to the root cause. Because you can't just, you don't want to be solving surface issues on superficial issues. You want to be able to solve the root cause. No, this is the reason why we want to be able to understand the root cause in our problem solving, so that we will be able to really get rid of the problem. If you think of it, root cause from the word root, if you think of a certain plant like in the grass, it's not enough for you just to cut the grass on top. If you want to take it out, you have to take it out down to the roots so that mawala na yun ang grass. No? So that's the thing. We want to know the root cause for our problems, especially in learning. We want to know these root causes in order for us to be able to provide meaningful and sustainable ba na? We want to be able to provide real and lasting solutions to our problems. No, so that's the 5 whys, especially when we encounter learning problems. So that's for 5 whys, and then this one, don't you forget to learn in community. Don't forget to learn in terms of connection. Okay, in many ways, it's very difficult for us, no, unless you're really a genius, no, or unless you're really like Albert Einstein or that man who solved Fermat's last theorem. He spent so many months, so many years alone in his room trying to solve that. But if you're not like that, if you're like me, no, in many ways, you want to be able to connect with your classmates if you do have any classmates, no, during your college time. You want to be able to have nga time, nga, especially that this pandemic time is an excellent time to collaborate with one another. You know, when you're alone in the house, and you'll really be looking for that interaction, and you want to be able to, set up a Zoom meeting, go on Messenger to really talk about it. No, but the second thing, don't encourage good cheating. Never encourage cheating. Aside from the fact that it's morally wrong, no, and you have to establish that in your mind. If you really want to learn, you have to have a certain set of morals, and then you have to be able to. You can't be encouraging cheating when you're having learning sessions with your classmates, but encourage helping each other out in the right way. No, kana good. You will never really learn if you really go through cheating. I have to just put that out there, and perhaps some of us may be having difficult times in that. Yeah, bisag lisod yung kayo niya, you'll be tempted to cheat just to get a high grade. But we go back to our foundations. What is your purpose for learning? Is it just to get high grades, or is it to understand? If your purpose for learning is to understand, of course, can cheating you dili gini siya supposedly an option, especially if you have your morals with you, no. But the main point lang yun is connect with your classmates, connect with your peers if you can, no. Because learning is not supposed to be a one-way street. Learning can be a two-way street, because there will be some concepts that your classmate could have understood, and there could be some concepts that you understood that your classmates did not, so you can help each other. Now, there's a verse in the Bible that says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." If you remember, kanang kutsilyo gani, na magluto ka, you try to, strike two metals together, or bisag kanang tong bato good, yeah, you sharpen your knife with that. When two of these objects strike together, they get sharpened. So once iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. So your interaction with your fellow students is going to help you out a lot. It's going to sharpen you. No? Now that's for learning in community. Now, kanisya, once you've finished a certain concept or finished a certain lesson, learn to summarize in simpler terms what you have learned. No? You want to be able to synthesize all the complex concepts of a topic or subject into simpler ones, because there will be a series of concepts of a certain topic that you want to be able to boil down, perhaps into a single point, or perhaps into two main points. And then the ways that you can do this is, perhaps you could make a step-by-step guide. For example, when you're studying bias, you know, kay pang ECA yun. When you're trying to study nodal analysis, or the KVL, Kirchhoff's voltage law, or Kirchhoff's current law, no? Or when you're trying, even just kanang mga concepts sa accounting or concepts in nursing, if you want to be able to really, if you want to test if you have really learned them, you want to be able to summarize them in simpler terms. Perhaps make a step-by-step guide, or perhaps make an outline of the topic. No, of course you make an outline. Don't put all the all the big details there. You just want to get the big points. For example, solving nodal analysis. First, have a reference node, and then blah blah blah. All these things. No, the thing lang yun is be able to summarize in simpler terms. Because the thing is, if you cannot be able to summarize all what you have learned in simple terms, then that's a very good indication you have not really learned the concept well. And then that's just been the study of how psychologists have done it before. If you cannot simplify the concepts, it's um, it's very difficult to say that you have learned a subject. For example, kani sa math na to, we want to simplify our equations, di ba? We have a very complicated equation or a very complicated algebraic expression in front of us, and we want to simplify it. Yeah, most of the time, when we go through simplifying it, it just ends up, for example, taas kayo nga algebraic expression, and it just comes nga the final expression after simplifying is x plus 2. No? 'Di ba? We want to be able to simplify all these complicated things. It just actually boils down to a very simple expression. So that's what we want to be able to do when we have our learning. We want to be able to simplify them. And in close connection with that, you want to be able to teach the concepts to others. And this has been one of the goals of the peer learning program. No, once again, I'm here promoting the peer learning program. As a mentor, you want to be able to teach the concepts to others, because teaching others who do not yet know the concept will enhance your own learning of the concept. Yun naman, it will force you to study the concept, to synthesize the concept in your mind, to make it simpler for another person. Because what you want to do is to raise the understanding of one person and bring it up to your level. And the way you're going to do that is you have to go down to their level. You have to go down to their level of understanding so that you can raise them up to your own level of understanding. So teaching the concept to others is really going to help. Now, same thing again, the second point. If you cannot teach the concept simply, you have not really learned it. You have to be able to teach it simply. I think it was Einstein who said this. Or no, I think it was Richard Feynman rather. I think it was Richard Feynman, yes. He was the one perhaps who mentioned that if you cannot teach a concept simply, then your learning has not been solidified. You want to be able to learn to teach the concept to others, and that's one of the things that has really helped me in the pre-learning program. I was forced to teach some kalain po na ng forced, no, pero I was constrained perhaps, or I had to teach them in a simple way because I understood integral calculus very well. I could solve problems very quickly, but I could not teach it at first. No, I could not teach it well to others. So I until I was able to simplify integral calculus, I could not teach it yet. And when I was able to simplify it, when I was able to simplify it, that's when I was able to teach them. And at the same time, when I encountered teaching them, I was forced to simplify it because it really meant I did not really understand at the time. So it's very reciprocal. Can you summarize in simpler terms and you teach the concepts to others? It's very it's complementary rather. Complementary and supplementary. No? Complementary 90 degrees, 180, supplementary 180 degrees. Now and then one of the final things is practice, practice, practice. Now some people have asked me what is my secret for being good at math, for being proficient in solving problems, and I tell you it's no secret at all. It's really no secret, yun. Yeah, I would say I've often said this to so many people, but proficiency in math, it takes time. No, again, it takes time. And proficiency in math, for me, it's been 85% practice or 85% familiarity and 15% skill. Or really just and what I mean by skill is being able to solve problems on the spot. No, it's really practice. Now, why is it practice? Because this is true, especially in engineering problem solving. No? Of course, but it's still true in accountancy. It's still true in nursing, and it's still true, perhaps, I guess, in what are the other courses that we have in education? No, practice, practice. You practice teaching. For example, in education, you have to practice teaching. The more times you teach, the better you're gonna get at it. What you want to be able to do, no, other terms for practice, 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 is pattern establishment. You want to be able to establish a pattern, to see patterns in the problems, to establish a pattern for yourself even in solving problems. And then also another term is mental conditioning. No, I don't know if you've seen this problem before, but if you have your attention on the screen, if you've seen this problem before, I think you have. Find the point in the parabola y squared equals 4x at which the rate of change of the ordinate and abscissa are equal. Some of you may have encountered this only for the first time, But to many, this has been a recurring problem. No, so once pa lang pagkita pa lang ko na sa problema, huy, okay, bawa naman di ko ani. I've encountered problems like this already before. So of course we won't be solving that now, but if you want, go ahead and solve it later on. But the fact of that is, if you want to be able to solve this problem quickly and easily, it's very important to practice, practice, practice. Then one tip that I have a coworker. If you're familiar with him, his name is Rizaldo Fuentes. Si Engineer Rizaldo Fuentes. He was a summa cum laude last March 2009. No, tugay na kayo, no? March 2009, and he was also the first placer in the ECE board exam of October 2009. He's my coworker karon at Teradyne, Philippines. And what he told me was one of the pieces of advice he gave me was that of practice yun. You get if you're familiar with the mathematics reviewers, you know the mathematics reviewers, yung Bisavilla, Gilisanya. What he told me was to get a Gilisanya reviewer, volume 1 and volume 2, and solve all the problems. And that's it. That's all he told me to do. Yeah, sunod lang pod ko kay practice niya. Really, it's really what happened, no? It's really what happened because after pila ka months gid nga nag-practice ko aning mga Gilsan nga problems. It really helped because everything was very familiar. And then si Sir Burns had a chat here. Still remember interviewing him for the Outstanding Student Award. Oh yeah, I didn't know that. Engineer Fuentes. No, he was a mentor of mine in the Mathematician of the Year, and I think even until now at work, I still ask advice from him on how to solve our problems sa company. No. But that's the advice: practice, practice, practice. And then some people again ask me, how long did it take you to practice? I don't tell them 1 month, 2 months. I tell them 8 years. It was really 8 years because it took me 4 years of high school and 4 years of college before I could win the Mathematician of the Year. 4 years in high school of establishing a good mathematical foundation, and then again 2 years in college. First year sa college, join of Mote, first elimination, tak-tak. Second year, first elimination, tak-tak na pod. Then third year, first elimination, uy, nakapasar. Second elimination, uy, naka-to finals. First time I reached the finals was third year, but I did not yet win. No? Then fourth year, I had nadayon to. So, again, be patient, but practice yun. Keep practicing. Don't underestimate your practice because it's 85% familiarity and practice, 15% skill. No, that's just my estimation. Now, a bonus tip for engineering students. All right. Watch and listen intently to Indian tutorial videos. No joke. I'm not joking with you, okay? You want to learn how to solve the Laplace transform. See, oh my gosh, I even got their accent already because I kept on watching Indian tutorial videos before on mathematics, sciences, and engineering subjects. Seriously, guys, Indians are legit intelligent and explain mathematical concepts intuitively and simply. And if some of you already go to them, go ahead. No problem, good. Just keep going along. All right. So today we are going to learn about the Laplace transform. So you have the kernel. Seriously, guys, don't underestimate your Indian tutorial videos. They're really good. They're able to explain it intuitively, very simply, no, logical kaayo nga pag-explain sa kuan. But I don't know if there are Indian videos for nursing. I don't know if there are Indian videos for accountancy, for other. But if there are, go ahead. Really make use of them. Be able to make use of them. But particularly siya for engineering students. And then see Sir Burns, my friend, the president of Timex is Indian. Very smart. Yes, sakto yun na. Some of the best engineers yun are in India. Some of the best engineers especially are in India. No, that's just a bonus tip. Now, for the final tip, because I guess we're running out of time. But the final tip good is balance. No? I think si Engineer Toledo, the first placer in the ME August 2019 board exam, I think maybe this will be one of the things that he will tell you. But balance. Don't be a dork. Pirmi na lang ka magtuon. No, don't be so caught up in that. Balance good. If you want to rest, go ahead. no? If you want to rest, go, you have your, karon CQ naman ta, mag-open na siguro mga samgyup, no? Samgyup. Pero sige, pag samgyup po. If you want to go to Andy Wings, no? Pero ako, guys, mag-survey na nataha sa mga samgyup, Andy Wings. Kamo ni bala. But kana lang yun, balance lang. Just put a balance. If you want to play Dota, go ahead. That's fine. But always go back yun. It's still a balance. Balance yun na. Don't play Dota too much, but don't also study too much. No, kay mabuang sa gana. No, legit, mabuang ka. Don't study too much, don't also play too much. No, but just have that balance in your learning. And I remember a story. Si ECE board exam 2014 first placer was CITU graduate, si Engineer Philip Salve. Engineer Philip Salve was grabe, one of the best in ECE that I know. Right now, I think he's a senior software engineer at Accenture. And I heard a story about him that he was the brightest in his class, but he was also the best in Dota. Wow, he was also the best in Dota in his batch, and I can attest to that because I have a friend who was a batchmate of Philip Salve. And grabe yun ba, bisag unsa nga posisyon, 1 2 3 4 5 offlane ba, hard carry, bisag unsa, he's really good. So that's the balance I'm talking about, but that could be a balance. Yeah, that's partly due to his talent yun coming from the genes of his mom. His mom was my mathematics teacher in high school, and but that it could partly be due to genes. But I'm sure he did a lot of work, he did a lot of study. But he balanced it out with his playing Dota, no? No. So kana good, just balance. No? So just a recap lang yun, short recap of all these tips that we have had. I hope you were able to establish these learning preferences to even motivate you to learn. Learn to understand. Establish the basic foundation. Think of your learning journey like constructing a skyscraper. Know your learning style. Capitalize on it. And then also don't just cover up your weaknesses, but also learn to capitalize on your strengths. No? And also, don't forget your foundations. When you go to the complicated foundations or complicated concepts, go back to your foundations. Strengthen them. Strengthen your foundations. Never underestimate the value of reading. Read books, guys. Read books, whether it be ebooks or physical books. Never underestimate the value of books. And I say that as an auditory learner. I've always wanted to just have lecture videos yung maminaw ko, but I've learned the value of books. Very valuable. Excuse me. Make use of all available resources. No, of course, read books, use reviewers, watch online tutorial lecture videos. Be patient with and discipline yourself. Why? Because learning is a journey. It's not a destination. No? So it really takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of discipline to have real learning and proper understanding. And never forget that you want to be able to apply your learning. That's why we have lectures and laboratory. No? That's why we have our OJT. We want to be able to see these concepts in action. It's not enough for us just to have these concepts nga, oh, it's on the book. Oh, it's on my notebook. Oh, it's on the board. We all want to be able to see these concepts good in action. That's why we have our lecture and laboratory. Use the 5 whys, no? The whys of when encounter problems in your learning to find the root cause of your problem in your learning. And then connect with your classmates. Learn in community. Don't be alone. And then summarize in simpler terms what you have learned. And in connection to that, teach the concept to others. Teaching the concept to others will help you to simplify your learning. And simplifying your learning will enable you to teach the concepts even better to others. And again, on the side note, please be involved in the PLP. It's a very helpful program. Very helpful program. Not just for the mentees, no, those who are being taught, but also the mentors. And I'm not aware of the other programs that are coming up, but I really hope that there will be a lot of programs to come with the PLP to improve the skills of the mentors, but also. And then practice. Again, practice. 85% conditioning or practice, familiarity, 15% skill. That's really just the basic thing. And then bonus tip for engineering students, yes. Watch and listen intently to Indian tutorial videos. Yes, go ahead. And then balance. So that ends my talk. Hopefully, silang Miss Erlin will be able to synthesize this later on, hopefully, and to make it simple. But that's been my talk. It's not so structured because I'm not a person of structure, but I hope this will really be helpful for you. And then I think there will be a time for question and answer.